Good evening, everyone, and welcome finally to edition two of the Integrity Racing League show. I'm Todd Thomas, your host. I'm joined tonight by Jacob Fife, IRL owner and administrator. But also, more importantly, perhaps tonight, we're joined by the sponsor of our last race, Joe Yates, who was the sponsor of the Let's Play with Yates 87 200 at Richmond. So, Joe, we want to welcome you to the show. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I am doing quite well. Thank you for asking.
All right, so we got a lot to get to tonight. We got a busy show. We're going to have a little bit of fun with our guests, not just on this episode. All of our guests are going to come on and play a quick little game with us, and we've got something fun planned for Joe later tonight. But first, we're going to start by talking about the Let's Play with Yates 87 at Richmond International Raceway. And as I get these results pulled up, you'll have to give me just a second. We're kind of scrambling here last minute. You can see the results from our last race there at Richmond. An interesting race for certain. Tyler Hudson gets another victory, 2 in a row for Tyler. You can see the top 13 here as I zoom in a little bit more. I know some of you maybe can't see it, but finishing up the top 10. Tyler Hudson finishing first again. Colton Landis with a strong second place finish. Bradley I am pulling up the right. Yeah, Bradley Haver finishing third. Tyler Herr with a strong fourth place finish. Marcus Lambert finishing fifth. TJ Thompson sixth. Andrew Fayash, who had a lot of damage throughout the race, had to struggle there towards the end, finishing seventh. Ty McWhirter with an eighth place finish. Traven Morgan ninth. And Brad Wren 10th, rounding up the top 10. So, Jacob, you were up in the broadcast booth for much of the race and got to see it from that perspective. Had a lot of green flag racing early on, and then all hell breaks loose. What were your thoughts on the race?
I think you summed it up pretty well, actually. Funny stat of the night, you get to see a lot of things when you're up there, and really telling, actually. First 120 laps, 4 cautions. Last 80 laps of the race, 10 cautions. The first half to 3/4 were pretty characteristic for what we're about and what we do. That last quarter, not so much. A lot of cautions, a lot of beating and banging. I think the setup had some to do with it, but you can't explain away the last 10 cautions there just on the set. So hopefully we'll go to the next couple tracks and do a little better as far as that goes. But another good win by Hudson. It was an interesting race to watch. When we had green flag runs, there was some definitely compelling storylines, and hopefully we'll learn some things from Richmond and apply them to the next few weeks.
All right, and Joseph, you were somebody that had to qualify into your own race, which is kind of a funny thought about it. The sponsor is not guaranteed entry into the race. And so, Joe, you were coming in, and then you get a Facebook message, I would assume, probably 45 minutes before the race saying, well, iRacing has changed the set. We're going to run this new set. And then you get into the session, and Jacob and the other admins weren't able to change the set, so we had to go back to the old set. So the set and what we were running was up in thin air and a lot of confusion there. So for somebody that was trying to qualify into the race and was not locked in, how stressful was that for you?
Well, that was a very extremely stressful situation, to say the least. What happened was Sunday night, I spent a good hour getting the setup down because I love this track and I really wanted to make sure I made my own race. So I spent an hour, I got everything down, I got really fast, and then I'm sitting at home, I'm just kind of relaxing, waiting for the race to start, and then about an hour before the race starts up, there's messages going around that there's a new set, we're going to be running something different. So then I spent that time figuring that out, and then we finally get into the race with the old set, and I'm scrambling around to find time. I'm getting really frustrated because I wasn't running as fast as I was with the setup before, and then I finally ran a lap that got me in, and I was just more than happy to have made the race.
All right, and I can imagine that was a pretty stressful for somebody that, even as somebody that is locked in, I think me and Fife are both locked into the races at this point. Even for somebody that was locked in, that threw a little bit of a hiccup. So definitely for you guys that weren't locked in and did need to set a good qualifying time, I can see how that would be extra stressful. So, Joe, you did get locked into your own race, as you said, and talk us kind of through how your race kind of shifted down and what your strategy was and how things turned out for you.
Well, I was really just taking it easy because the setup that we had to drive, it was a little bit rough. And I think that's part of why we had such a good run at the start, was everyone was just kind of being careful and feeling around the setup. But I think the biggest problem with the setup was, and from what I noticed from starting back in the pack, is it really hard to pass with the setup. And I think that's part of, as we got towards the end of the race, people were getting a little bit braver with the setup because they knew we got to get passes done on the restarts because that's the only time we'll make passes. And I think that's part of what led to having more cautions towards the end of the race there.
All right, and I'd be remiss as a host if I didn't give Jacob a chance as the admin and owner of the league and the guy that really had to make this tough decision on what the world was going to happen with the set. So, Jacob, tell us how that kind of unfolded when you got notified that it was a new set. Again, all hell broke loose twice on this night, once before the race and once around lap 120. What happened before the race and the discussion there as far as what happens with the set?
Yeah, basically, I got a message on Facebook saying, hey, they changed the setup to make it better for daytime racing. Within 5 minutes of trying to make that decision, I had a personal issue that came up that I had to leave and address it immediately. Some of which you know about it, some of which others, but I won't get into it. So in the time that it would usually take me to just make the change, put an announcement on the Facebook page and send out an email, I had to just leave and kind of let things lie because there's some more important things I need to take about. So normally that whole process would run smoothly, but the change in setup, and then I had to go, and then the race is coming up. It's just threw all caution in the wind, so to speak. And the admins in place did the best they could. I was at one point in phone contact with Freeman trying to get the right setup in and trying to figure out how we can do it, if I'm not at my computer, and all these different things we're trying to do to make it right. At the end of the day, when I finally did get back to my computer to try to change the setup right before the race, I couldn't do it. It was just not enough time, and it would lock the setup. So real big calamity of events, if you will, to kind of create a situation that doesn't normally happen around here, because I do like to try to keep things organized and going in a positive direction, and that just, stuff happens sometimes, I guess is the best way to put it. But yeah, so a lot of events came together to create an understandably somewhat confusing and frustrating situation for some. So I apologize for that.
Well, and I think everybody would thank you for the apology, but I think everyone needs to keep in mind this wasn't Jacob that changed the set 45 minutes before the league race. This is an iRacing deal. Jacob, if you can't see me shaking his head no pretty violently right now. It was an iRacing deal to kind of throw caution to the wind there about 45 minutes before the race. So, and we understand you did have some personal issues as well. So moving right along, let's recap quickly where we stand on the season point totals, and I hope I've zoomed in enough for everybody. We'll try to zoom in on the top 10 here. Andrew Fayesh keeps his points lead, a commanding 83 points behind Marcus Lambert. Again, Marcus is 2 races short of the total of the complete league schedule, so he has done 7 races to Andrew's 9 races, so that's important to note. Tyler Hurd jumps 3 spots up to the 3rd spot in the standings. He does have a win this year, so he's already locked into the chase at 104 points. So does Marcus. Trevin Morgan, the top-rated driver currently without a win, is in 4th place, 119 points back. William Dunn in 5th rounds out the top 5. Colton Landis is tied, but Colton does have a win, so he's going to be locked into the chase, assuming he makes the minimum number of races. Adam de Blasio had some more connection issues, I believe, and just things didn't go well for him at Richmond, so he drops 3 spaces back to 7th. Jacob Fife didn't participate on his own choosing on Monday night. Might have saved himself some frustration there. Drops 3 spots to 8th. I dropped to 9th with my first DQ, I think, ever in the league. Pretty disappointed about that. And Bradley finishes up the top 10, gaining 4 spots to join the top 10. So Jacob is somebody that's normally up towards the front and races with a lot of these guys. What were some of the big movers and shakers from Richmond that you really kind of noticed from the broadcast booth?
Well, the first thing I noticed is probably the one guy at the very bottom, our winner. If you looked at the results from the beginning, he started 34th and was really able to pick his way through the field relatively well. The other thing I noticed from the night, it looked like it was basically a battle between the top two guys of Lockdown Racing when it comes to Marcus and Andrew, and then you had One Up Motorsports with Tyler. Obviously, One Up was actually 1, 2, 3 at the end of the race with, I believe it was Tyler, Bradley, and Colton. But Jason K. Miller was up there at one point battling in the top three, along with a couple others. So they were really stout for the race. And then I thought you had a mixture within the top 10. Some different guys got up there. Yakes even got up there at one point towards the end. I thought he was going to have a really great finish for a sponsored race until some stuff came up at the end, which we might talk about a little bit later. But really good runs by some different guys given difficult circumstances. So.
All right, and we didn't spend enough time talking about this on the last show, but you know, it's not just the top 10 is not what's important necessarily for this league. One of the major points of contention is who's in the top 20 in this season's points, because that's going to determine who's going to be locked in. So we saw a little bit of movement from that this week. So we're looking at spots 16 through 25 now. Nick Ward in 16th, Cody Smith in 17th. Ty McWhorter, who was outside the top 20 at the conclusion of the last race at Bristol, jumps up to the 18th spot, a big race for him and a big finish. Sam Rouse drops down to 19th. I believe Samuel didn't race this past Monday night. And then Guillermo Alvarez jumps 4 spots up to 20th place in the points. So big races for Guillermo, big races for Ty to get themselves locked into this weekend, this Monday's race at Talladega. On the other hand, you've got people like Jason K. Miller, Brandon Burkhoff, who maybe didn't have the result they needed to get. Things just went wrong, and so they fall outside the top 20. So, Joe, you are somebody that's outside the top 20. How important do you think it is going to be for guys like Burkhoff and Hartman and Josh Campbell, who are sitting just outside that window, to get good races at Talladega and try to put themselves into a locked-in status?
Oh, I think it's going to be very important because, especially with Talladega coming up, the times for qualifying are going to be so close. So the fact that those two guys that you mentioned fell out of the top 20, that kind of puts them in a situation where, you know, those guys that are normally in the mix every week can then be, you know, shuffled out because things are just so close at Talladega.
Absolutely. So that's something to remember. You know, I think this would have been a really good race at Richmond for everybody to try to lock themselves in at, because like Joe just said, Talladega is going to be a bit of a crapshoot when it comes to the open queue sessions. But, you know, we've got other races and just getting yourself locked in. So that top 20, we're going to try to keep an eye on it throughout the season, see how that fluctuates, which drivers are coming, which drivers are going, to try to get into that lock status. So we have gotten a little bit of a rumor. A little birdie came in and popped in a little bit earlier and told us we might have some major news on the league update front. And we have Jacob, the owner and administrator, who was in a conversation with the league admins right up until airtime tonight. So working hard with the admins. Little birdie told us we might hear some big news. So Jacob, I'm going to throw it to you. This is kind of your segment. What kind of news do you have for us tonight?
We're going to address a couple things. I'm either going to be loved greatly or I'm going to be burned on a stake here in a minute. So we'll try to get this over with a little quickly. We've listened to some of your concerns as members. We had an admin meeting just now, as Todd mentioned, that literally ran up until about going live here. We're going to make some changes. Going to reset some things and hopefully kind of push things in a more focused direction. So first of all, and I got a notebook, I got notes. The incremental point system that we have had to this point, we're doing away with it. It didn't seem to have the effect the admins and I were hoping to have, so we're going to basically retroactively go back and just erase those, kind of start from scratch, and this will change the point totals. There are 2 drivers who would have been in the top 20 that will jump out. Those 2 drivers will be locked into next week's race along with the 20 that are reset. So we don't want to really screw anyone over, for lack of a better term. So we'll have to recalibrate for next week, but going forward, we're getting rid of the incremental point system. That's one. We're shifting to a focus of really focusing on cautions and those who are causing them. Basically, what will happen is we are resetting the caution count, and this is why. We're going to a system where each caution that is attributed to you, you'll get a deduction of 5 points for each caution. That's one. Then from there, if you cause 3 cautions, it'll be a 1-race suspension. If you cause 6 cautions, it'll be a 2-race suspension. If you cause 9 cautions, it'll be 5-race suspension. This is all within the regular season, or what we have left of it. So if you cause 9 cautions with, I think we only have like 14 races to go in the regular season, something like that, you're really doing something. And then if you cause 12 cautions during the regular season, then you might have to go. But everybody's caution count is getting reset to 0. So in other words, if you have, like in my case, if I have 3 cautions now, we're not going to say, oh, well, you have 3 cautions, you're automatically suspended for Dega. I have a feeling we might have some people who get a little hot-headed over that. So starting from scratch, like I said, this is all an emphasis to get us to, A, focus on cleaner racing. That's always the goal. And try not to penalize people who may not get caught up in stuff. Or, you know, accidents happen, right? So we're trying to focus on people who are causing the incidents instead of, you know, might get caught up in an incident. There's still an incident cap, and that still is 18. If you get DQ'd from a race, you get deducted 15 points. So that's still in place. But we're making these changes, and they'll be in writing and in the rule book, hopefully before the night's out. And like I said, that's the big news. Like I said, it's something we're really focused on to try to make the racing better and hopefully more consistent in the long run. So that's the deal. And if you have any questions or anything about it, feel free to PM me or email me, whatever works for you, and we'll talk about it, and we'll move on to Talladega.
All right, so Jacob, thank you for that. We talked a lot about the points. Any suspensions or any other penalties coming from the Richmond race that the league members might need to know about?
Even with the 10 cautions at the end, surprisingly, no. As far as suspensions go, the one thing I will say, and I'll try to make it quick, when there is a situation when, say, I'm not running the server, we need to keep in mind is that people who are running the server are the ones in control, and they're the ones making the calls. Just because I'm not there doesn't mean you have leeway to say some things that you probably would normally get away with saying in the server, or doing things you probably normally wouldn't do in a server if I was there. We try to keep things as PG as possible. There are some things on our end we need to work on, and we will work on. But I've said this once, and I'll say it again. You as members make the league. So you know, if you have an issue and need it addressed, or you're upset, it happens sometimes, but there's a way to go about doing it. And we want to make sure that's the right way on both ends, and that we have good communication, and that's going to take all of us to be able to do that. So like I said, from the race itself, not any suspensions. We do have a couple drivers who are on suspension from previous races that'll be close to ending here soon, but really want to work on being able to communicate better with one another in a respectful manner. We have to be respectful for one another, otherwise the league isn't going to be what it is right now. So I'd like everybody to keep that in mind, and hopefully we'll see that positive reinforcement, if you will, kind of work its way in as we go on.
All right, so Jacob, we want to thank you for that update. One thing we don't have a whole lot of time because we're kind of scrambling here last minute on the show. We got started a little bit late, and a couple of us were in the NIS race tonight. The IRL meetup is coming up in May 13th through the 15th, I believe, are the dates, and that's going to be in Dover, Delaware. At I believe it's Dover Raceway. I'm not positive of that. So Jacob, you've put that together for the members. What kind of turnout are we looking for? What can we expect? If you're somebody that maybe lives in the northeastern area, I'm actually flying in from Georgia to come to this event because I think it would be kind of cool to meet everybody. I live in Atlanta, so tickets are pretty cheap. But for somebody that lives in that area or might be able to get up there, what can they expect, and who do you know might be there and they can meet up with?
Well, first of all, it's a lot of fun, and we do it every year. We're going to be at Dover 13th through the 15th. If you're in the area, like you said, like I know Matt Bontempi, I believe, mentioned he was coming. You don't have to be with us the whole weekend, but if you know you're going to the race and want to meet up with us, say hi, hang out, whatever, we'd love to have you. I know there's a few guys who signed up, Todd being one of them. I know Tyler Herr is going to come down. Jay Heischman lives in the area. I think Schitzler's going to be running around, and I know he's got to work that weekend too, but he'll be around. It's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of cool guys. The cutoff, as far as me handling tickets and things like that, is the 28th, I believe, 20th or 29th of this month. So it's coming up really fast. Next Thursday, I want to say. So to get confirmed, to get tickets all straight, I need to know. Otherwise, like I said, if you know you're going to be at the racetrack and want to meet up with us, we'll be there. We're trying to do a 3-day event where we're going to be doing different stuff each day involving racing. So, like I said, a lot of fun. We did it last year at Charlotte, and old Alan Roll was with us. That was always fun. And then the year before, we were at Richmond and had a great crowd for that. So come join us, be a part of it. It's a lot of fun, and hope to see you there.
All right, and we're going to kind of shift attention here really quickly. We're going to talk about rookie point standings. Hopefully, again, I've zoomed in enough. Let us comment and let us know if you can't see it. But Adam de Blasio keeps his rookie point lead even after a touch of a bad race there at Richmond. Travis Morgan 3 points back in second place, so a little bit of a 2-to-green battle for the Rookie of the Year title. This is the Shane Ashmore Rookie of the Year Cup. Brendan Burkroff in third place, 10 points back. Ty McWhorter in fourth, 15 points back. And then looks like we have a tie for fifth between Samuel Roush and Brad Wren. So Joe, when you look at those rookie point standings and you kind of see where that stacks up, what are your thoughts on who might be able to string a couple of good races here in the next couple of weeks and take over as a rookie point leader?
Well, clearly Adam's been the best of the rookies all season, but I have noticed Travin has actually been climbing up the points all season, so I think he's going to be the next one to probably get up there and take that spot away from Adam.
All right, so as I get it loaded here, each week we want to do something a little more fun with our guests. And so this week we're going to do a little bit of a word association game. So we haven't done a whole lot of work to test this out. We're not positive it's going to work as well as I had planned. But the thought here is I'm going to share an image on the screen. Hopefully people don't cheat and try to see the pictures on the side of the screen to see what's coming. But I'm just going to throw a picture up on the screen. I'll talk for a couple seconds, talk about who's on the screen, give my thoughts. And then we'll pitch to Joe and Jacob and just get their thoughts. And these are going to be totally random. I just picked 20 names or objects out of a hat or out of my brain, really, earlier today. So we're going to start with this one here. Britney Spears, somebody I had a huge crush on when I was 16 years old, Joe. When you think of Britney Spears, what do you think about?
Well, she was a very popular figure when I was a young boy. So that's about all I really remember. I got a friend that's a huge Britney Spears fan, but that's really all I have on that subject.
I think she might be a little old for Joe, and it just dawned on me that she's kind of mine and Jacob's era more than Joe. But Jacob, Britney Spears, come on, help me out here.
Oops, I did it again. No, yeah, that's probably about all I have on it if we're doing this rapid fire. So it's that and a short skirt. It's about all I got. Oh, and if what 58-hour marriage? Yeah, I do remember that. That's about it.
I've actually toured the place where she got that buried at. So next one up, Hulk Hogan, the Hulkster. Joe, give it to me.
Well, I was never a big fan of wrestling, so I really don't know a whole
All right,
lot
mute his
about
mic. Mute his mic. Mute his mic. Jacob, Hulk
Hold on.
Hogan.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan, man, come on.
Oh gosh, that's kind of before my time too. I'm not that old yet. I don't have anything. Yeah. Sorry, I got nothing.
You guys are terrible at this game. All right,
I'm sorry.
moving on.
Give me one word, maybe move faster.
All right, moving on. This is who we got here. I'm trying to class the establishment up a little bit and try to give everybody some academia. So does anybody even know who this is?
It's Clarence Thomas. I do know that. It might get interesting, but it's yeah. Supreme Court Justice. There you go. I got it.
All right.
Is there like a bonus or something I can have?
We'll give you 5 points in the standings. Joe, do you even any thoughts on
No
Clarence
idea.
Thomas? No idea who he is. All right, sports fans. Does anybody? Jacob, Barry Bonds. Any feelings? A lot of people hate Barry Bonds. Are you somebody that says, "Oh, he took steroids. I hate this guy. Get him, kick him out of the sport"? Or are you somebody that says, "Well, everybody was using steroids, so why be so pissed at him"?
Go PEDs. No, no. I don't really have an opinion. I remember like it all happening as the Sammy Sosa, Mark McGuire era and stuff like that. I mean, not my biggest fan. But got to do what you got to do, I guess, right?
All right, Joe, we got a NASCAR themed one for you here. Old Harry Gant. This looks like it's taken at the Brickyard, probably right around 1994, 1995. Might have been the first Brickyard for all we know. Might be a little bit before your time. Did you hear stories about Harry Grant as you were growing up, or watch any of his races, or even remember who he is really?
To be honest, I don't really remember that one, but I do know my dad was a big NASCAR fan when I was growing up, which led me into it. So I have heard of the name. I've never seen him race though, unfortunately.
All right, Jacob, Mr. September, Harry Gant. Do you remember anything? Am I just old? What's going on here?
You should have an age restriction in here now. No, okay. What I remember, he won like 4 races in a row. I was probably like 5, so I'm kind of young too. But yeah, like he won like 4 races in a row, didn't he? And then always ran the high, wide, handsome, high, wide hair, or some nickname he had about being run the high line. I don't know.
Joe lets us know in the chat here that he was born in 1992, so maybe I'm dating myself a little bit here. All right, Tiger Woods, probably in his prime, the best golfer of all time, but he's obviously not going to break Jack Nicklaus's streak. He's had a lot of problems. Jacob, I know you're a pretty big golfer. What do you think of the whole Tiger Woods situation?
I'm trying to find a funny response that's PG at the moment, actually. No, great golfer. He just likes women a lot, I guess. I can't blame him. I'm right there with him. No, great talent. It's just he hasn't been able to get back on track with injuries and all the drama that comes with it, I guess. But great golfer otherwise. I'm a Nicklaus fan myself, though, if I have to say.
All right, and Joe, I know this is before your time again, but I don't know if you're a music guy at all. Sad news today, as we learned of the passing of one of probably the greatest guitarists of all time. One of my favorite quotes is by Eric Clapton. Somebody asked Eric Clapton, "What's it like to be the greatest guitarist of all time?" And Eric Clapton responded, "I don't know. Ask Prince." So, are you a music lover? Do you play anything that the viewers might find interesting?
Yeah, actually, I'm a huge fan of music. I play bass guitar. So, and actually, this one I do know because when I was in high school, I was kind of big into the '80s music, so I listened to a lot of Prince's music.
All right, throwing a little curveball here, Jacob. Tyler Hudson, thumbs up. In his pink uniform there, a little bit of a curveball. What do you think when you think of Tyler Hudson?
I think he's a really cool guy, actually, when you get to talk to him for a little bit. I mean, first of all, do you really think I'm going to be dumb enough to say something bad about him on the broadcast? That's first of all. Not that I would anyway. But, no, first thing that comes to mind, honestly, as far as our league goes, and really anything, is dominant. He seems to be the class of the field so far this season. And just, he's a pretty cool pretty cool dude.
All right, Joe, we got breaking news today that Tony Stewart has actually been fined $35,000 for being mean to Mike Helton, I guess. So what are your thoughts on the whole NASCAR crusade and Mike Helton in general, really?
I don't think it was right of them to find Tony. I think Tony had every right to speak his mind and say what exactly he wanted to say. And going on the whole lug nut issue, I myself have an issue with it. I think it's ridiculous how many loose wheels we're having in the races because of the crew trying to put 4 lug nuts on instead of 5. I think it's a little ridiculous, and I think something should be done.
All right, and we're going a little bit rapid fire here. So a great music legend, Hank Williams Jr. I remember being 5 years old and riding in my dad or my uncle's pickup and them throwing a Hank Williams tape. Yes, we had cassette tapes back then. Throwing it into the tape player and listen to Hank Williams. So Fife, are you a Hank Williams fan, something that you enjoy, or do you even really listen to his music at all?
Yeah, I like some of his stuff. I'm a country music fan, or the older stuff anyway, not the newer stuff. It's kind of too Taylor Swifty for me. But no, yeah, he's got a lot of great songs and stuff that will kind of survive the test of time, so to speak. So it's great.
All right, so that's gonna wrap up our 5 good minutes with our guest Joe Yates, and also getting some information from Jacob. So, like I said, each week when we bring a guest on, we're gonna talk about something a little more fun with him. Try to play some sort of, I don't want to, some sort of game or something that everybody might enjoy. We really just want to get to know each of our guests a little bit more, not just the same old I race. I think we already know that about each other. So. I want to get to know each of you a little bit better, so that's what we're going to use it for. So looking forward as we begin to close down the show a little bit, going forward, we've got the Camo Up 250 at Talladega Superspeedway. I believe that's Hardcore Paints is going to be the sponsor again for that race. So we're looking forward to having them on the next edition of the Integrity Racing League show. Joe, you're somebody that has to qualify in. Talk about the stress of trying to qualify into a race at Talladega, because it's going to be super, super tight whether you make the race or not, because everybody's able to run essentially pretty close lap times there.
Well, saying the times are going to be super tight, that's a little bit of an understatement. They're going to be really close, and that's just part of qualifying on the restrictor plate track, is you're wide open, and it's going to come down to who can get around the track the smoothest.
Absolutely. And Jacob, you're probably going to be rejoining us down on the track at Talladega next Monday night. What are you looking forward to? What can we kind of expect from an Integrity Racing League restrictor plate race?
It's going to be pretty intense. I'm once again glad I don't have to queue into these races, because Talladega is pretty much a crapshoot, just to be honest. I'm really interested to see, and I know our team has kind of talked about a little bit, how this new team dynamic with the team battle going on, how that's going to affect restrictor plate racing, because you have new alliances forming and things like that, and that should be interesting how it plays out with how they do strategy, drafting together, things like that. It's going to be really interesting, that's for sure.
All right, so that's going to close out our show. We want to thank everyone for joining us, sticking with us. We did have a small delay tonight. We apologize. Technology is where it is. Sometimes it just doesn't work the way you want it to. Had a small delay tonight. Jacob was working hard to get it fixed as quickly as we could. So we want to thank each of you for sticking around, watching the Integrity Racing League show, edition number 2. And we'll see you next Thursday night as we wrap up Talladega, get ready for Kansas on the next edition of the Integrity Racing show. Good night.
See you later.